Hey everyone, this is Kenny Coins with Marathon Money. I'm here with Davis Gaynes. He is in the AI space, Fintech space, and I introduced myself on LinkedIn and asked him to come on the show. And I think he will be a great guest speaker. You guys will probably love him. Um, so, Davis, please um, tell me what's like. I guess the pivotal point that made you get into the AI space.
Well, I think your audio might have dropped again, but I'll talk while you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
Yeah,
No, I
so
don't know why it dropped again. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what's
Yeah,
going on. I don't know why it's
periodically
dropping.
your lips are moving, but nothing's coming out.
All right.
Let's
Well,
ignore
let's get going. But
it. Hey, so we got into AI, my partner Peter and I, from our original firm that we had started together. He was a partner in. It was Gatsby Options Trading. And Gatsby was purchased by a firm called eToro a couple of years ago. eToro is kind of like the Robin Hood of UK Europe. It's a neo broker, social trading, speculative trading. They like options and stocks, like Robinhood does in the States. And Peter was running the US operations for eToro. And when ChatGPT came out in the fall of 22, he was thinking, wow, this is interesting. I wonder how this could help with customer support. And that was really when we first started looking at the idea of leveraging AI into customer support. Today we see that it's going to hit everything for customer support. When you talk to Verizon, when you talk to AT&T, Cablevision, all those large companies that are a nightmare to deal with, in the coming years, it's going to get a whole heck of a lot better because AI is going to help them understand who we are, whether we're calling or chatting or emailing. They'll know all about our account information, and AI will be smart enough to be able to answer questions. So right now, what's going on with AI is it's happening in verticals. So each industry is pretty much being attacked, I think, by people like Peter and I. We're fintech guys. We're from the brokerage industry. So for us, it's all about brokerage. There's another firm doing something similar for banking. And obviously, we're seeing it all over the place in lots of companies. But the key right now is having expertise in the business and the industry so you can figure out how to apply the AI. And Peter saw that promise. He saw it on the customer support side when we were at eToro. And, that's a big brokerage firm. They get thousands of customer questions every day. And your goal is multifaceted. You want to give people better answers. You want to give people faster answers. And importantly, you don't want to make them wait. One of the problems with any business, if you're the guy running the business and you worry about your customers, is how do I balance how many staff I need to have to answer all those questions I get? And inevitably, you're going to have a spike. You might have in the brokerage industry, the two big reasons you'll have a spike in questions is something's going on in the market. A few weeks ago, Berkshire Hathaway stopped trading with a couple of other stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. People are like, what the hell's going on? Is it my app? Why isn't it working? So they start asking their broker, what's going on? And the broker only has so many people who can respond to that. So the big promise with AI on that side is simply you type in a question, chat, email, whatever, and it'll immediately be able to give you the answer back because it will understand your question and the broker will have already input the answer. So as soon as something happens in real time, we can say, Berkshire Hathaway stopped on the New York Stock Exchange, technical problem, should be up within an hour. Or maybe it's our problem as a broker. And we say we lost our feed from the exchange. We're working on that. We'll be up in an hour. But the point is, you won't end up with hundreds or thousands of people like we have in the past couple of years, multiple times, that can't get answers to their questions. So Peter started looking at eToro, and eToro is a smart firm, and they gave him the opportunity to actually start investigating with what we call in the brokerage industry as an outside business activity. So he continued to work at eToro, and he started working on this business with eToro having an option to invest. So they could take advantage. They could take advantage if it worked out, and we took it outside the firm. And sure enough, in the fall of 23, it looked like it was real and viable. And into 2024, we actually started the firm, and we have our first customers now in the pipeline, starting to do the development work to come up and offer this to clients.
Wow. So it seems like a lot of steps in a short amount of time.
Yeah,
A lot of steps in a short amount of time. I think what you're saying is accurate. And, I've seen it in different industries, different spaces, and you guys are in the brokerage space. And I think AI is going to be a revolutionary thing in 10 to 15 years. And I think people who are positioning themselves now are going to greatly benefit from it. Because I feel like we're still in the infancy stages of
absolutely.
AI. We're nowhere near close to what the Jetsons or other shows we have seen are doing with the capabilities of AI we have implanted in our heads from like TV shows and cartoons and whatever. I think we're so far away from that. But I think a lot of people, if they want to have a better life, they should start doing what you're doing, finding your niche and comparing your niche and be able to implement, even if you're working for somebody, right now, it'll be a good idea to get yourself really familiar and acquainted on how AI works and how you can use it to better your life. Because that's pretty much what you're saying. A lot of these brokerage companies
Yeah,
is to lighten the load. It's all about lightening the load. It's all about getting customers answers as quick as possible. The example that you gave, if something is down, a stock is not operating correctly, brokerage lost feed, maybe the first 30 people doesn't get their answers, but once you get the right answer, you pretty much answer for the next 10,000.
that's right. And one of the really interesting things about any business like this, about any startup, any entrepreneurial effort, is you don't know what you don't know when you start, and then as you get into it, there are things you learn, and there are things, opportunities you see that you didn't see. You might have heard about the pivot that startups often make, where they kind of start with one idea, and 3 years later they're wildly successful with a different idea because they figured something out on the way. One of the things here that we're learning about is what we're calling personalization. Our magic, our secret sauce for brokerage is we're plugging into the back office of a brokerage firm. So they talk about the clearing firm. Some firms, bigger firms, clear themselves. Others use an outside firm to clear. That's where all the brokerage data lives. So whatever brokerage firm you're using, Kenny, if we plug into that back office, we're going to know your holdings. We're going to know your trades, when you put money into your account, all that sort of thing. And we're going to be able to personalize information to share with you. And you're going to be able to analyze your own portfolio in ways that you can't today. And it's not just getting a quick answer, it's getting a better answer. One of the really interesting things, and anybody who's listening can go to ChatGPT today and try this, ask it a complicated financial question, something you don't really understand, like maybe about day trading. The AIs out there today do a great job with two things. Their answers are concise. You don't have to read a book. You can read a few paragraphs, and they're clear. They make sense to people who are not experts in the industry. So you're not just giving an answer. You're not just giving a quick answer. You're giving an answer that people can understand. And that's really important in brokerage. The regulators, in a good way, force a huge amount of training and licensing on all the people you talk to who work at brokerage firms. But like in any business, some are good, some are great, and some not so much. But when you're using an AI platform and it's been trained and taught and it's battle tested, you're going to get a good answer virtually every time. And again, importantly, an answer that you can understand, so you don't have to keep going back and forth. And the personalization piece, which we think when you look back in 5 years, what AI brought to brokerage, we think that's going to be the big one. So if you think about wealth management, you think about firms like JP Morgan Wealth and Goldman Sachs for the really rich people. Well, they have a question. They pick the phone up, they call, they talk to a very, very well-educated, knowledgeable financial advisor. They get the answer. You go to the other end of the system and you go to the robo-advisor or the brokerage firm where you're one of millions of clients and they have a handful of people. There's not a lot of ways that you can get custom information and custom answers, or that the firm knows enough about you to give you information. So by plugging into the back office, what we now see is when something happens in the market, whether we have, as a broker, you have 10 million clients or 1,000 clients, we can easily send information to that group of clients that matters for that instrument, that asset class, that news that came out, and tell them exactly what's going on. and if appropriate, advise them as to what choices they might have in order to react to that. Or we can say anybody with a portfolio that should be 60-40 equities and fixed income and is moved to 80-20, we can let them know, hey, here's what's going on in your portfolio. You might want to look to do fill in the blank. So there's the personalization side that gives a huge amount of power to the brokerage firm and investment advisor that they have today in their head, but they have no way to get it to their clients. So that's another interesting facet. And again, part of that, we didn't know this when we started. That wasn't the intent. The intent was responding to customer support. And this became apparent that it would be a really cool thing. Like we go in the morning now, if you're plugged in, you can say, instead of going into an app, signing in and finding the page, you can just say, what is my portfolio priced at this morning? If you're looking at a new investment, you can say, how does the PE of this compare to the PE of my portfolio? Or any other, factor, financial information that you look at that's important to you, or to, ask for a chart. So there are going to be some new workflows that are much easier for the client than having to sign into a website, open an app all the way and dig in.
That's the access to brokerage, the access to opening a trading account, the barrier of entry is a lot smaller nowadays.
That's right.
And the process is a lot simpler. There is no more. I know you probably remember more than I do when you used to pay to buy shares, and used to pay to buy, used to pay to sell. I think that gave tons of people access from everything you just said here. And now I'm thinking it's like this is about to make it a lot more easier, which I feel like sometimes because people can get into the stock market, it makes it more volatile. But with access to so much information relatively quickly, don't you think there'll be a lot of panic selling, a lot of companies that shouldn't be overvalued, getting over, shouldn't be where they're at, and because they're there because somebody's portfolio is showing down and they're asking your AI company, why is this stock going up? And then also look at charts. Can it also look at basically a sentiment? Can it tell us like, oh, the sentiment for this is a strong buy because share flow is coming in? Is
Yeah.
that something that it can also do?
You hit on a lot of things there. Let me take the first one because it's really important, and that is just the access to information, the access to brokerage accounts, and how that impacts stocks. And no doubt it does, right? We look at GameStop as the classic example of the past 5 years, and there have been a lot of names since that. But having said that, it's not everything. It's some names. One of the things to remember when you're playing in the stock market is you hear about institutions, right? Institutions are the big investors, right? They're managing literally trillions of dollars. But at the end of the day, they're us. It's our pension money, our IRA. It's our money managed by professionals. And that's the big pot of money. We're little guys, all of us traders, me, you, and the other millions of people on all those great trading platforms. And relatively speaking, it takes an awful lot of us acting together to have an impact on any kind of a medium or large size company, because mainly it's those big institutions that impact them. So I would say, yes, individuals clearly are having impacts on stocks like we've never had before, but it's a relatively small number of stocks at one time, just because we have to all get together like what happened with GameStop in order to make that stock price move a lot. So that was the first thing you said that I remember that I wanted to hit on. Do you remember what else you were?
Yeah, I do want to say something that caught my attention. You said we're little guys, but what you're talking about, and I can kind of see the vision now of what you have for your company, which I think would be revolutionary in a way that this is a add-on to something that's already revolutionary that's going to make it more powerful. That's how I see your company. You're not reinventing the wheel, you're just making the wheel 10 times better.
That's right. So let me hit on another point you're making here that's really important, is when you look at technology like AI, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. For example, everybody knows about NVIDIA. NVIDIA is not really AI. NVIDIA is the infrastructure for AI. none of us are going to touch it, right? We're all getting the benefit of it through, something like ChatGPT,
Correct.
models people build. So separating out kind of what AI is and what guys like me, I mean, I've been selling technology for a long time. I'm not a guy who does computer programming and really understands the back end at all, but I have figured out how to talk about it, how to package it, how to sell it, how to make use of it, for regular people. And that's a big difference. A lot of us can do that. Like once you understand what it can do, you don't have to be a technology guy or a Wall Street guy, to do something with it. So that's a really, really important, aspect of it, is to be able to separate out the leverage of it and the infrastructure and because that's what everybody's talking about. That's all these stocks that are making money. But there are tons of companies trying to do the sorts of things that we're doing to make life better for their clients and, hopefully for them for future clients.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying is like, and I want to take it back because what you just said there kind of adds to my point, because like Robin Hood was a small player at one point, and they basically are the ones that made everybody in this industry go to basically no fee trading. They were a small player and they literally changed the entire industry, where now nobody charges to buy and sell.
Yep.
So what you're saying is when you bring your product and you attach it to something that's already and make it better, you're saying, okay, now the lame, the individual that doesn't know anything can literally type in and say, look, I don't know anything about stocks, but I need to start investing. Where do I start? Where do I need to point to start buying stocks? Then I can see it for you guys. And then you're going to prompt questions and you're going to say, are you conservative? And then you're going to be like, what kind of, then you're going to be like, okay, well, you're going to have questions about their lifestyle to determine if they're conservative or aggressive or they're risk takers. You know what I mean? To point them in a direction. Age is going to play a factor. Like, that's where I see you guys going. And if I'm wrong, please tell me.
Yeah.
Because that's what it looks like.
Let me stop you there.
Because that's what a brokerage, yeah.
Yeah, because here's another big important part of it. So I started in the business 40 years ago, and 40 years ago, people were talking about machine learning and AI. And people were excited about the capabilities of AI to figure out what to invest in, how to invest, what the portfolio makeup should be, all that sort of thing. We're 40 years later, no one has figured that out yet. There is still, as far as I know, no AI that's truly driving investing and trading. It's helping, it's supporting, but it's not actually answering the questions. And to be honest with you, I don't know, how close we are. That's kind of Jetson stuff. It's clearly what everybody, thinks is going to happen in the future, but I don't know if it will or when it will. What we're doing is much more specific to analyzing what exists and being able to answer questions on information and data that exists. So we're not like, if somebody were to ask Clio, and Clio is never going to be Clio, right? Our customers are brokers, and the brokers will put Clio on their website or their app, and they'll have their own name for it. So Robinhood eventually will have something like this. They'll call it Robbie, right? It doesn't have to be us to do it. The big brokers will do it as well. And when you ask a question like, what stock should I buy? Or what should my portfolio allocation should be? The answer is going to be, I can't tell you that because I'm not a licensed stockbroker and I'm not allowed to tell you that. So there's kind of a line there between I can analyze what I have. I can ask questions about what I'm thinking about doing that are fact-based, historical data-based. It is a huge amount of information to help me as a beginner. But what it won't do yet anyway is tell me what to do. Now, firms like some of the RIAs we talked about, like a Betterment, for example, a robo-advisor, they do ask all those questions, and they do have a model that will help somebody build a portfolio based on, do they have kids? Are they going to go to college and buy a house and all that sort of thing? Conservative, risk averse, and all that. And eventually that will make its way to AI, and firms will leverage that in the same way. But our business model is much more about answering fact-based questions and helping people along the journey because they know they don't know. And when you don't know, you can ask a question that can then be answered by the AI. But the question won't be, what should I do? That's the one question that the regulator today has to be answered by a licensed individual.
Licensed broker. And the reason why I kind of said that previously is because you said usually somebody will start something and then they'll pivot just a little bit and end up being wildly successful based off the original thing they started because they just pivot a little bit.
Yep.
And I'm saying that you guys already have something that's that's great. And I can see how you guys can broaden that open a little bit and become basically a service for people that maybe they just have a 401k or they have a
Yes.
Roth IRA, and then when they switch it over and say, "Okay, take a look at my Roth IRA," I don't know anything. Can you tell me what's in this? You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because
Exactly
some
right.
people just have a 401k and they don't really know what they're doing. And maybe somebody else is doing that, but I know for a lot of 401ks are being run by brokerages, by firms.
But let me interrupt because those kind of questions we can't answer. Because now what you're saying is I have a 401k, it has the Fidelity Contra Fund. What's a similar fund to the Fidelity Contra Fund that I can buy myself? Right? Because that's just fact based. Contra
Yeah.
Fund exists, it has a track record, it has characteristics. A lot of other funds, no one is quite as good as they are. They're the best. That's why I picked them. But look kind of like that. They buy the same kind of stocks. They've had the same kind of performance. And that's a fact-based question and answer. It's not telling me I should invest in them. I'm saying
Yeah.
it looks like this.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying like there's so much
Yes.
like with this tool, there's so much doors that can be open. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
You're
Then
absolutely
that's
right.
why I'm saying I'm seeing it from like a Robin Hood standpoint. All they did was pivot a little bit and said, you know what, we're just not going to do fees. And that revolutionized the industry. And then boom, GameStop appeared. Because there's so many, the barrier of entry is so small now.
Yep.
And I feel like you're opening another door where the barrier entry is now, okay, now we can allow people that doesn't know anything. They just have a 401k. They just have this. And they say, like, this is what I got in my 401k. Can you mimic this? You know, I mean, I just retired. I had all these for years. Can you mimic this?
Yep.
Can you tell me what I need to buy to mimic this? Same
Yep.
thing. Give me the comparison and the facts about what's in my portfolio. And basically that man can get what you took him 30 years and get a quick course on it. And I think that is going to be more valuable um as you grow, because that's when I see like things really working out for people. Definitely in the next 15 years there's going to be a lot more retired people in the next
Mhm.
15-20 years, and I think a lot of people is going to need that initial help. It's like, where do I go, where do I park this money?
And
And
what's interesting is every brokerage firm is different, right? And different brokerage firms kind of have a different angle. So the AI that they use will be set up to help people with that angle, i.e., a real beginning investor. The prompts and the information they're offered to help them get started will be different than a firm that's all about trading, that has very experienced traders on it who are looking for different kinds of information. So people will use the tool differently. Firms will use the tool differently for their clients, and they'll set it up so those clients have, the easiest way to get into it. Because you're absolutely right. It's an awesome educational tool. I love it for
yeah,
education.
so let's pivot a little bit. What thing has made you successful? Well, like, you've been doing this for 40 years. What was it like? What's the routine like? What's being you like? What it
Yeah.
takes to get to this point where you have your own company. You've probably done some things that the average person hasn't done. You've probably seen great technology. You probably seen what it was like in 40 years ago, where people were basically paying what, $30 to make a trade. You know what I mean? And to seeing
About about
games
like
to
about $300 40 years ago.
oh wow, that's crazy. Um, but to now seeing GameStop, to now seeing businesses are up and running as quick as possible now, because the barrier of entry to even start a business is easier now.
Yep.
Um, Now seeing AI, like how like seeing all that and
Yeah.
being in this fintech space, like what was some of the successful things that you have done that you've seen other people have done and how you implemented it into your life? I know
Yeah.
that was a long thing.
I'll just focus my head on, kind of what did I go through? What helped me be
Yeah.
successful? One thing is, you get lucky, right? And it's not lucky like the lottery is lucky, but you put yourself in situations where things happen that make it easier for you to get to that next step. So the first company I went to, called Instinet, in 1984, when I came out of college, it had been around for 15 years, and it was a great idea. It was about electronic trading of stocks. It had never happened before. And for 15 years, it didn't work. Wall Street didn't want it to work. Wall Street had fat profits. They didn't like the idea of electronic trading. They knew it would slim their profits. So I was lucky to get there. At the same time, technology was getting more sophisticated. Investors cared more about the cost of trading, which is what we did. Investors started trading in small capitalization stocks, little tiny companies, which are more expensive to trade. So I was lucky that I got there at a time when the business was ready to take off. That was one piece of luck. I was lucky that I was with a bunch of other people, and we were all relatively young and excited about Wall Street and excited about trying to kill the world. And having that team around you isn't a must-have, but man, it makes it easier. When you're having a tough day and you're getting the bleep kicked out of you and you've got someone to go to and have a beer after work and talk about that, that's important, because being an entrepreneur, anything, when you start, whether it's a restaurant or a company like Clio, it's going to be hard. It's going to take longer than you think. There are going to be setbacks. So having people around you who are friends as well as colleagues and you can trust is really important. And one of the big things is working for people that are smart, that you can respect, and that you can get along with. And I was lucky, again, as a young person out of college, I had some great people I was working for who helped me along and could, take me that next step. So, those are the kinds of things that you have to get lucky with. Another one, insatiable curiosity. If you want to do well in business, you've got to be curious. You've always got to wonder, why are they doing it that way? Why aren't they doing it that way? What if I could do it this way? What if I could do it this way instead? You're always curious about other ways to do things. You're curious about all the businesses you're competing with. Who's successful? Why are they successful? Who's failing? Why are they failing? What do my customers care about? I think this is really underserved in terms of what people think about, because when you're curious about a business, what happens is you gain expertise in that business. Now, I grew up as a salesman. I'm still a salesman. I've always been a salesman. No matter what you're doing, you're selling to somebody somewhere. So your ability to have that knowledge, and for people that you're selling to or talking to know that you know what the hell you're talking about, it's huge. Because when you're trying to convince somebody to go with you, to invest in you if you're a new business, to buy from you, to partner with you, whatever it is, they're looking at you saying, do I want to put myself with this guy? Is he good? Is he going to be successful? Is he the guy I want to tie myself to? And one of the things I learned early, and I learned it because as a salesman, I was scared of selling about stuff I didn't know about and having people ask questions I couldn't answer. So I was really nuts about learning, and I knew stuff. And when people talk to me, they're like, he knows stuff, and they would trust me, because I say, when I'm teaching salespeople, there are three things that have to happen, or you want to have happen. They have to trust you're honest and you're not going to screw them. They have to trust you know what you're talking about, and if they buy the product, that's going to do what you say it will. And hopefully you're going to behave in a manner they like you and they want to do business with you. Those are three really good things to remember. And again, I don't care if you're a teacher, if you're a podcaster, if you're a sales guy, an executive, you're always selling to people. You're always trying to get people, convince them toward whatever it is you want to convince them to. And those three things are critical. They've got to trust you. They've got to trust you know what you're talking about. And they're hopefully going to like you. And the trust, back to curiosity, trusting knowing what you're talking about is becoming an expert at whatever it is you're involved in. Because if you're not an expert, A, you're going to make mistakes you don't need to make. And B, you're not going to know, what do I do? When you're an expert, you know what has to happen. You might not get there, you might fail, but at least you know what it is you need to make happen. So those are some of the kind of cornerstone things that, I would say to people who want to get into business, that you want to have in you and around you. And the one about being liked, and my father was a salesman, and one thing he taught me, be nice to everyone. It's the secretary, the president of the company, no matter who it is, be nice, show respect. When you're nice and you show respect, you get it back. People want to help you. They want to help you get to that next step. That's another kind of, core aspect of, I think when you ask me, how was I successful? I think that's a big part of it. I developed relationships over these decades. And when I need help, I can go to somebody who knows what I don't know and ask them. And let me hit that one, knowing what you don't know. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. I don't care who you are,
that's so true.
what you're doing, there's stuff you don't, if you don't know, don't plow in, find someone who knows. I use the term been there, done that. Find someone who's been there, done that you can ask. And maybe, 3 or 4 people is best, because some people are good at explaining things, some people not so good. If you ask 4 people the same question, by the time you get 4 answers, you're probably going to understand the answer to that question. So knowing what you don't know.
People don't realize how accurate that statement you just said. Like, when you ask so many people the same questions, the answers so differently because of experience. And some people, when the first person you asked, he probably went like 30% of the way. And then you got one person that went 50% of the way, and another person that went 76% of the way. And then you got another person that you just hit it and it's just 120%. This is all him. This is what he does. He from scratch did it for 40 years and he knows everything about it. And you just that. And I think people don't really understand, one, how long it really takes. It takes longer than you think to be successful in any endeavor.
Yep.
2, you have to make a lot of friends. And I think you hit in the relationship. And then 3 is like, we're in a society, a lot of companies are team-based now. Everything you do is a team-based. You know what I mean? You don't really, there's not really much out there you do by yourself anymore.
That's right.
And everybody on that team has a lane, and everybody's an expert in that lane. And I think a lot of people needs to realize that. And I think you hit a lot of things on the head with that. I think that is part of like one of the ingredients, one of the few ingredients to success. But just to like dive like deep more into you, is like, when you started your career back in Wall Street, did you think you were lucky? Because people are probably sitting in certain positions right now and they don't know if they're lucky or not. They don't know if like is this gonna be the thing? Because I guarantee you the people that sat on Google or the people that sat on ChatGPT when they first started probably never, maybe some did and some didn't. But how do you know?
It takes a while. At the beginning, you don't know. In fact, at the beginning, I wouldn't say I thought I was unlucky, but I cold called, right? You want to get a meeting with someone, you call them and you ask for a meeting, and it's really hard. And when you work for a company that no one's ever heard of and hasn't had any success, it's really, really hard. And I used to wish I worked for Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch, because I knew if I called up, they'd pick the phone up, and they weren't picking my phone up. And it was really hard, but it makes it so much better when you succeed out of that. When you start something from scratch, or when you're pushing against that 800-pound boulder for years and it's not going anywhere, and then it starts to roll, it makes it sweeter. It makes it better. And that is what that first job was. I was there 17 years. And the first 5, 6, 7 years was really, really hard. And then we took off like a rocket ship, and we had a great run, and we grew really big and became a big part of Wall Street. And looking back, that's when you realize, yeah, we were lucky.
When you say that boulder thing, it brings me up to something I read and I saw a clip on. All the friction is in the beginning. All the friction's in the beginning. As Charlie Munger said, it's hard getting to 100,000, but when you get there, it's a lot easier to get from 100,000 to 1,000,000.
That's exactly right.
You save $1,000 a month, or no, even $500 a month, you get 7% interest on it. You finally get to 100,000. It took you 7, 8 years to get to 100,000. To get from 100,000 to the other 200,000 is less than a year. And then from 200,000 to 400,000 is like 8 months. You know what I mean? And as you get to 1,000,000, once you get to 1,000,000, it just escalates even faster. So when you talk about that boulder, I think everybody needs to realize, when you're starting something, of course you feel unlucky, because all the friction is in the beginning. All the friction's in the beginning. And that's like when I was at Goldman, I was at Scottrade Investments, all the like getting started was in the beginning, like all that friction. But once you got that momentum going and people know you now and you get past all that friction, it becomes just a compounding straight effect. Like everybody trusts you, and
That
people
is
that
very
doesn't
well
even
said.
know you, the people that doesn't even know you, they reflect on. They was like, oh, I got recommended by a friend. It was like, and you're like, who? And it's like, no, he said he talked to you over the phone, but he didn't do business with you. You think I should? And you're just like, wow, okay, I'm really hitting that stride where
Yep.
like, okay, I might not do business with this guy, but they know me well enough to his friend will do business with me. And I think, yeah,
I remember when that happened. We were, everything was a cold call. The only appointment we got was a cold call. But then there was a point when people started to call us, and it would be someone who read about us or their buddy told them about us. And then a few years later, we didn't have to cold call very much. They were coming the other way, and
the
it
phone was
takes a while to
ringing
get
and ringing and ringing. And I think just to bring your point, like it's a lot of things seem unlucky in the beginning because it's just hard. And then that goes for anything you do in life. You're starting a business, starting a new career, all the friction has got to be in the beginning, all the friction. And that's when you learn the most. To go back to working like at places like Merrill Lynch and stuff like that, it's a lot easier over there because they already did the work. They
there.
already got the brand. Of course, it's easier over there. You know what I mean? But I think that's very well said with the Boulder analogy. Um, but man, one last question: where do you see yourself, and where do you see Clio in the next 5 years?
I don't know about me, but I love doing stuff like this. So whether it's with Clio or something else, I hope to be keeping on doing it. Clio itself, I think, will be what retail brokerage and registered investment advisor clients are using with whatever broker they deal with. We are what you'd call a white label product, right? So our customers are going to be broker dealers. They're going to put their own name on it. You won't even know we exist. But the big brokers, they're doing this themselves now. They're just starting out. I know some of the big brokers are only doing AI internally. So when you call up and you talk to the rep actually is using AI to get an answer to the question. But it won't be long before they start offering it to their clients, as we're going to be offering it to our clients. My guess is that within a few years, if we're successful and we get traction, we will be purchased by somebody in financial services who's got a lot of brokerage clients, and they want to leverage what we've already shown as success. And that's a pretty popular path for startups when you're kind of breaking new ground. Is the big guys will let you break the ground. They'll pick a winner in a space. And then when I say the big guys, I mean the vendors, behind
Yeah.
all the brokers, and they'll pick you and they'll do it. So, hopefully that'll happen. And then I'll have a new toy to play with, a new
Oh
area.
yeah, yeah. You're one of those. Yeah, even if you make it big, you're looking for the next dinosaur to chase. The next
If you're lucky, it's fun. And I've been lucky.
yeah.
It's fun. I
You know
really
what I
enjoy
mean?
it.
So it's you're always out in the hunt. And I think people like you needs to be in the world because there's a lot of creators, there's a lot of inventors, but they can't sell it. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's one thing I learned a long time ago. You can have the cure for cancer, but if you can't sell it, it really means nothing. You can't convey it to people. You can't make people understand it.
Yep.
You just have a cure.
For your viewers and listeners who are entrepreneurs in waiting, one of the things to think about is there's always, of any company, kind of the product or service side, and then there's the revenue side, right? And I've always been the guy on the revenue side. That's been my focus, but both sides need each other. So my son right now, he runs sales for a small startup, and he would love to do something on his own. He's like me. He's the revenue guy. So what's he looking for? He's looking for the product guy, or the guy to build the product that he has, that's his idea, to team up and go out together. And that's really what all these companies are about. You've got to have both halves. It's not often there's one individual who's awesome at both. Steve Jobs was awesome at both. There aren't a lot of Steve Jobs out there who can both understand, in depth the product side and be a great salesman for it as well. So there's room for all of us. You said earlier, you've got to find your lane and find partners who need your lane, and find partners who are good at their lane, and then you give it your shot.
Yeah, and it's the new wave. Like teams are the new thing now. Like people don't. going out by yourself, you're just going to be facing a team.
It's tough.
You're not gonna. It's not gonna be a one-on-one. It's gonna be 3 or 4 guys, 5 guys. You're gonna be facing a team, and that's gonna make it a lot harder for you to compete out there. It's gonna be a lot harder for you to compete. But Davis, I really appreciate you taking your time. I learned tremendous amount, some new things. Ask Clio, amazing. I think you guys have a big future lined up. I think you guys are gonna be wildly successful. I think you guys are in the right niche, right space. Definitely in this day and age where more and more people are getting into the stock market. As you can see, people are flooding in. People want to make money, looking for ways to secure their future. So I think this would definitely help. Definitely help.
I believe and hope you're right.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for inviting me.